So this is an online double feature. Puss in Boots 2011, followed by Puss in Boots The Last Wish. Yes. So, yeah, I'm surprised I hadn't seen this movie. We were redoing 2011, a job club and college group and the return of college group, Next Generation. Yeah, 2011, yeah. Yeah, didn't go out and see it. Went out and saw Hotel Transylvania instead a year later. Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah, I'm surprised I didn't go to see that. Oh, yeah. Puss in Boots movie. They did a sequel, but that first one combines elements of the fairy tales Puss in Boots with Jack and the Beanstalk and Humpty Dumpty and Mother Goose, of all things. Yeah, so, like Shrek kind of did before, it's a sequel to Shrek, it's a spin-off. There were 4 Shrek movies. Yeah, and spoofing Disney, so it's DreamWorks. So no, Disney's not going to air this until they're eventually going to, like, I guess, air in July because they'll show anything, but not now. So we have premise of Puss and Humpty Dumpty being raised as children in a town, a Spanish town. And then later on, they betray each other because they're like being chased because they've done some stealing from the town. And then Puss goes on the run, and then that's a little flashback sequence he's talking about. You know, soft paws had been declawed, which is hilarious. I'd messed up. Declawed cat. Selma Hayek and Antonio Banderas and producer. Producer was Guillermo del Toro. Before all the del Toro movies happened. So yeah, it's that it was cute. It had cats in it. Well, why wouldn't I ever see it? I just don't know why I didn't see it. Yeah. So they go to they get the magic beans from Jack and Jill is also in this, but Jack and Jill are these ridiculous over the top characters, hillbilly sort of characters, but in Spain, which is weird. Jack wants to have a baby or something. Jill is like, no. And they have pigs in their cart, and then there's like a chase back and forth with wagons and horses and carts. There's a lot of action scenes. There's swashbuckling and sword play, and there's a musketeer cat, you see. Yeah, and there's a lot of and then they get the magic beans, and basically they get the beanstalk, and they go up to the giant castle. The giant's already been killed, and there's they steal the gosling, not the goose, but the baby goose, and they take it back to the town basically, and then the mother comes after it, and the mother goose comes after it. It's the beast in the story. You know? She comes after it, and there's a kaiju goose walking through the town. Who knows what's not to love about a kaiju goose? That's hilarious. A silly goose, literally. This movie is, everything it was implied, and these other relatives have seen this movie, and I just didn't. And it's weird that I didn't 10, 11 years ago. And now I get the joke. Yeah, okay. So it's kind of like the reverse of back in the day when Mark's Cards hadn't. Back in the day when we were in high school, and he hadn't seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, and had no idea what I was talking about when there was a new Star Trek on. The first season of Next Generation, he had no idea what was going on. Until finally he saw some of it later and went like, oh, yeah, it's not even in the same universe as the film. So it's kind of like the same thing here, but in reverse, because he'd seen all the Puss in Boots movies. Went to see the second one. Well, it just came out on streaming, and although it's still a little pricey, it's not overly pricey. That I figured, well, if I rent the original for $4, then the sequel, that's $19, won't seem as much. It'll be like half off to watch the sequel, so it'll be like $11. Anyway, so this is my brief review of Puss in Boots and Puss in Boots 2, and this is part 1. Yeah, it was fine. What else am I going to say about it other than that? It works. DreamWorks. I don't think Spielberg owns them anymore. I think he sold them off. But yeah, they're that would be WB, not Disney. That would be HBO Max and stuff. Yeah, so yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna go on to part 2 and not ramble on about other stuff. I'm just gonna go on to part 2 because there's no reason to ramble on about other stuff. An 11-year-old movie. Anyway, this is the Calicat's turn. This is a quick review of Puss in Boots 2. Puss in Boots 2. I guess there was a TV series that lasted for like 3 seasons between 2013 and 2016. So there's a TV series. But yeah, Puss in Boots 2. The Last Wish, I guess. So there's like a kaiju giant character in a town in the beginning. He defeats it, turns to stone when the sun comes up, like Lord of the Rings. But it was also in the nursery rhyme before Lord of the Rings. It's a nursery rhyme. And then there's ogre turning to stone. That's like a common trope. So the Hobbit wasn't the first one to do that. There were others before that. But yeah, and the Hobbit movies came later. But the story of that's ancient. Then so we've got Jack Horner from The Pie, but he's like a giant, enormous parody of slovenly blonde egotist guys that are fat. Gee, I wonder if they're spoofing there. But yeah, it's probably a certain ex-president. It's probably what he's spoofing. Yeah. But then we have but not directly, just indirectly. Wants magic, all the magic and the power to get the magic. So there's this wishing star that's in the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest is from Japan, I think. Also, the Dark Forest references a kind of space alien theory. The Dark Forest is like, as in the Fermi paradox, the Dark Forest is that the aliens were all defeated or aren't around here because of some larger alien threat or something. Yeah. Something like that. Anyway, so you have a like an Alistair Reynolds. Anyways, this one has a wishing star that's shaped like a star, not like a star. Like a 5-sided star, which is not natural, but we put that on stars and stripes and things. That's clearly what they were spoofing. A bunch of stuff in this. Yeah. So Puss is evidently killed by the ogre in the beginning. He goes to the weird vet guy. And it doesn't matter that the tools he has in his vet clinic are too advanced for the time period. But, it's fine. The joke is, it's fine. They do imply that he's going to stick a thermometer at the camera. But yeah, there's supposed to be like... Isn't it supposed to be the Renaissance when Puss in Boots takes place? Like the 1500s? Something like that? The Renaissance, I don't know, yeah. Because he's a musketeer, basically. Yeah, so this is Spanish Renaissance. Could be earlier, could be later, I didn't check. Anyway, So apparently Puss left Kitty at the altar, and probably during the series, I guess. I don't know. Kitty's looking for the wishing star too, so Kitty's back. Salma Hayek's character. The South Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Goldilocks is an adult, so she's aged up. The bears are silly Cockney characters. They're not really. Yeah, they're not doing Australian accents, doing British accents, like Cockney accents. South London sort of accents. That's what you're doing there. Oh, blimey, governor. Less Picard and refined. More like, blimey, governor. Yeah, like They're from Scotland Yard or something. But yes, so we have there's probably other famous people in this. I just don't know them all and didn't look it up. The pie guy and all that. Since it is 2023, this is probably being made during the pandemic. So they probably did all the recording separately. Or just a little bit afterward. Maybe. It does take a while to animate a movie, so it probably took a while. I guess there was a 2D and maybe 3D version. This was the very regular HD version, online streaming version, in which the animation was kind of emulating Into the Spider-Verse in places and going in a different direction with its art style. And that was a little jarring because it didn't really match the... They were trying to do cell animation over CG animation, or make it look like cell animation. It was a little odd, but in places. But it seemed to fit. Whenever they did an action scene, it didn't seem as fluid because they would use that thing. It wasn't the player. It wasn't the player checked. It was that the animation style was that jumpy sort of style. The original actually was more fluid. Their animation sequences and stuff than this one. So the 11 years ago, that one was actually... They actually had... Yeah, there are places in it that it was like the player was jumpy, but it wasn't the player. Because it was on the same channel. The same... it's probably because it was a conversion from... It wasn't the 4K one, it was the 1080 one. Like frames were missing. But I don't think frames were missing. It was the Into the Spider-Verse style. It's the sort of kinetic hyper style that whenever they showed they wanted to show a lot of the action, it tended to throw it off a little. That was kind of distracting. And whenever they wanted to show up close shots of the fur on the cat, it was far superior. But then when they did the action cutaway shots, it was not as good. So, yeah, but it works. It's cute. It was a very hyperactive, but cute. As I texted Mark's cards about that. Yeah, so the animation was a little... Yeah, it was fine, but it's current DreamWorks. It's not going to look like it did 10 years ago. But yeah, maybe... it's like they were trying for that high frame rate thing, like they did with Hobbit movies. And the high frame rate thing, when they tried to reduce it to put it in lower frame rate, kind of made it look more cartoony than it should. It's a CGI thing, if that makes any sense. There was the frame issues. I would be curious to know what it's like in the theater and see if it does the same thing. But probably won't do a second showing just to see whether it does the same thing. I don't think it was the player. I think it was just the art style, the frenetic art style, and didn't quite match the original. But yeah. But yeah, it was fine. Yeah. The animation was a little bit of How to Train Your Dragon in it too. A little favors. Also, I don't think Mark's Cars has seen Soul, but it has a similar premise to Soul. Those two souls go down to Earth and they're going to get their wish and get back. It's like that. And also, of course, the wish nursery rhyme. But yeah. And Fantasy Island from the 80s. It's like, oh, do they really want that wish at the end? Do they really want that? Do they discover that at the end, their fantasy, their wish, is to be together and have family, which is cheesy, but it's cute. It's a kids' movie, so it's fine. There was a lot of dark imagery in there for a kids' movie, actually. Yeah. It's the evil wolf guy. It was the wolf. The big bad wolf has apparently been adopted into as Death. And they take off on a ship and far away to go on a boat. Maybe they take off to go to the series now. prequel of the series. It's not a prequel of the series. And yeah, the Nine Lives thing doesn't really. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, I understand that the Super Carlio brothers were trying to figure out how many lives he had, and figured out that he actually has already lost the 9 lives. I don't know if they did. Yeah, they you figure we don't know in which period the movie takes place. It could take place during the show or before it, in which case he hasn't. No. Or it's a multiverse where the wish thing inevitably split up in the multiverse and there are different things are going on. Yeah. The different people that go into the forest see different things on the map. That makes them see things. Very reminiscent of, well, they were spoofing a little bit of Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons, which came after Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings book series was done a long time ago. You know, in the early 50s. The Lord of the Rings animated movies were in the 70s, actually. And the live action movies were 20 years ago, in the 2000s. And then slightly after that. So they spoofed that too in there. And Dungeons and Dragons came out in the late 60s, early 70s. Because there was a cartoon series in the 80s. And there's a new movie coming out. There was a movie in 2000. Wasn't very good. But there was a cartoon series that was much adulated and liked. And so, yes, cartoon series. They kind of spoofed that with the idea of this dark forest being sort of a different people see different things in there. They spoof Harry Potter at one point. They have a Pie Man guy has a Harry Potter wand and a crystal ball. They spoof the magic carpet from Aladdin, which is in the building that gets. That's kind of funny. So there are Shrek jokes in there of a sort. And you have 2 kaijus. Not only do you have a kaiju giant at the beginning, you had a kaiju giant at the end, who was the Pie Man guy that becomes even bigger. You get him, Puss fighting his other lives that try to hold him there and escape from death and everything. The death thing destroys the lives. They're in this mirror, House of Mirrors kind of place. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that was Puss in Boots 2. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. Although there was a TV series, which I have not seen. It is weird that I hadn't seen the original until tonight. Because I totally would have liked it. Yeah, so Puss in Boots. It's Puss in Boots 2.